Hello everyone. So today we have very awesome speaker with us, the guest, and very awesome personality, Vijay. And you can also find him on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and at many places with the name of Type API. So welcome, Vijay.
Hi, thank you very much for the invite. I'm pleased to be here.
Okay, cool. So, I will introduce about him in the terms of how he has been part of the Red Hat, and like he's in the software industry, in the software development industry from last 8 to 9 years, and from that part, from last 6 years, he is part of Red Hat. Okay, and that is a very great thing about Red Hat. I've seen a lot of people, living for a being part of Red Hat for a very long time. So, what exactly is about Red Hat? That keep person motivated for this long time, because I've generally seen that people move out of the software industry, or like exactly jump between the companies in 2 years, like maybe 2.5 years, but a long time. Red Hat keeps people for a long time. How is that?
There are many different reasons. First, if you think about that, employee stats, you will quickly see that Red Hat is actually, quite high. Like it's number two, I think, in US as a best employee to work with. And there are a number of reasons for do that. First of all, when you work in Red Hat, you have this very technical capability. So you think about your career and how you can lead it and how you can aid your, bring your skills to the organization. So when you're working for Red Hat, like you're joining some startup and you're working with a single product, now imagine that Red Hat is like 10,000 startups that you can join in. So it's like word within the word that you can drive upon. And Red Hat is also composed with many different places. So let's say if you are a developer and you find yourself, okay, I'm no longer interested in developer, I would go to management. You have free path to do so. So within your career, Red Hat gives you this nice ecosystem that you can, not only, do coding, but also bring some ideas forward, seed some projects and things like that. So that's why I have like 6 years for me passed so fast with Red Hat. I still remember my first days when I joined. It was actually I joined one of the startups that was acquired. It was called Feedhenry, and this was actually our first journey to bring our first open source community. And I every day at Red Hat is just basically I'm really keen to start the work, and it's straight away you jumping into action, talking with people, resolving tough problems, and like it's not that yet another software job that you're getting the Jira and you work on it. This is a place that you're getting the passion, and the people you're working with are also very good, right? So this entire concept of like everyone at Red Hat is good. Once you join, you realize yes, the we are like big family, and we're working towards what success.
I didn't knew you started with the Feedhenry. Feedhenry was a very awesome project that I think Red Hat acquired it and then converted its module to some open source versions, right? uh,
Yeah, like I was really passionate about even before I joined Feedhenry. I was working as a consultant, helping small
okay.
startups to create their mobile ecosystem. And the Feedhenry as a startup and also like community was always focused on that. So when you think about you always have those backend developers building some APIs, and you always have those front end engineers that are doing some things, right? So you may have this clash of two different realities. Someone builds the API, someone consumes it. And within Feedhenry, we try to really bridge that gap to give this fast way to build applications, deploy it, consume the application. And that was, I think it's 2014 when the full stack culture was really building up. So like now full stack, anyone say like full stack, everyone knows what full stack is. At that time, there was literally no tools to support that kind of thing, right? So the Feedhenry as a solution was giving you option to build application, and for that we use Jenkins, open source solution. I was contributing to Jenkins, was really quite a lot of fun working on it. Then we building some APIs, data synchronization. That's also a very hard topic, right? How to move the data back and forth, and write those things. So I first year was lots of fun, but still entire 6 years with Red Hat every day it's quite fun.
Great. Yeah. So even I had, a very, very small experience with Feedhenry in the very, very beginning part, because, I got to realize that at very, very beginning, it was not completely open source, but, the items were available for trying and testing. So I was just, taking a look and, thinking of how exactly it is so incredible product, where you don't have to, even code a single line. You can create forms, you can create camera application, you can create a lot of things. And, that application could be deployed on Android, and, for right now, people might think, okay, so we have so much application that can do that. But at that time, providing such kind of capabilities and for, industry exposure, that was really huge. So, that completely amazing product.
Yeah, and it was a product, right? We know about it. And at that time, we were thinking about how to make it like overly open source. And this is how the Aerogear was born. In fact, Aerogear was being like was conceived before that, like at least 3 years ago, and was similar in a capability. So it will giving you security for APIs and things like that. And the biggest project there was Aerogear Push. So at that time, when we were building the solutions, the working on a mobile wasn't that easy. You needed to, for example, you want to send a push messages, you want to have a server, and so on. As for now, we see that industry moves towards these big players. So typically, if you're sending now push messages, you wouldn't really need push server. You would think about like use Firebase directly. And the same with data sync, right? We have some solutions like Graphql, which Aerogear it's very strongly based on at the moment. And we moved from this kind of Jenkins that's not Kubernetes native. It's just basically this old legacy CI/CD solution to something modern. And this is what Aerogear was for a long time. My team work on data synchronization specifically and API, because that's if you think about like what's the biggest problem right now within mobile and also like full stack development. It's how the teams between the clients and server side work with each other. So like your backend usually like you have Hibernate, Quarkus, Spring. Those technologies were there for 10 years and they're very mature. They're still bringing new things up to the game, but the developers on the backend they see this very stable way forward. When we started, working with Airgear, there was no clear winner on the client side. There was like, if you remember, Angular 1. We done some project called Feedhenry Raincatcher that build those Cordova plugins, also drag and drop that you could really build your applications quite fast. Yeah, that was the reality. But what we have now is that React is really becomes the standard. So like no one really want to look. Maybe some hipsters go with Vue or something, but React became the standard in a community. You have many different backends, and how to bridge those things together. That's the biggest problem that Aerogear tries to solve as for now.
Awesome. So we are getting some fundamental questions, right? We kind of got involved in our own motion of the discussion. So, but students are asking, okay, so what you are discussing is good, is perfect, but how exactly to get started with the open source? You are discussing what to do after that and things beyond that, but how exactly to get started with open source?
That's one of my favorite questions, because I was even before joining RedHat, I was thinking about that, right? And I'm very opinionated about, because I as well started by contributing to some projects, right? And you have many different paths to do so. First, you have a different classes of open source projects. For example, you can start with building your own, let's say, project on a side, right? And you call it open source. You put it MIT or Apache license, and that's it, right? If it's properly licensed and it solves some problems, that's open source project. The problem is that open source project comes with community, right? So you need to get some users, then those users become contributors and so on, and that's very, very hard. So it's way easier when you actually start your open source journey by joining existing project, right? And there are many different paths to do so. For example, we talked about React. React is one of the great examples of community that's very, very huge, right? If you think about contributing to React, you'll go to the issues, and look for a good first issue. You can find something there, but it will be very hard to start, right? And what I found out when many different students reach out to me and they try to look for these quick issues, it's good to do something for the project, but at some point, if you're looking to contribute and get better, try to do something within the core of the problem. So don't try to, let's say, build around it, because you may spend, let's say, months working with that project, but still not be proficient about its core value. So think about finding the first issue. That's very simple. And after that, try to establish the connection between maintainers so you can work on something more harder. And this way, you're not only gaining, experience and, kudos for being open source engineer, but you bringing your career forward. I can see it's like you can spend hours contributing to various open source projects. Your GitHub stats will look, okay, the guy contributed to React, Kubernetes and so on. But when you look at it, what was contributed there? It could be some small changes of documentation. And that, obviously, it's good. It shows that someone had the time and done it. But overall, what's really important is that what you can bring to the community, right? So it's not like, I always said that, it's not like Pokemons. Don't collect them all. just get one and mine them properly. So build the stats.
The analogy you said about Pokemon, it does not get them all. It is, because
don't collect them all. You just need to kind of get one and train it properly, right?
Yeah, true. True. That is true. Like, keep it like Pikachu, right? You are experienced, you are so proficient with it that you don't have to, worry about anything else. And
and you need to find your Pikachu. That's another problem. Because when you're straight off university, like every project looks like, okay, this is Java or something, right? The projects are, you can see them as like, oh, this project is done in Go, or this project is done in Java, or I know Java, so I can start. But are you really interested in low-level networking? Or are you interested in logging? So think about what will interest you, and don't be afraid to explore some things from the user perspective. I often have this problem when people reach out to me and say, like, I want to contribute to this project, or I want you to help me how I can contribute to it. And the problem is that the contribution is hard because you never acted as a user. So you try to contribute to the project, but you actually never use that. So I know I shouldn't laugh, but that's when you think about it, you really want to contribute and learn, but first start as a user. And if you don't like it as a user, never contribute to that. And I have often that kind of situation. Like if you don't like it, if you don't understand what this project does, don't contribute.
Yeah, that is so true, because first you should be able to defend it, right? Because when you are working on a project, many times you will feel why it is working like that, how are things like that, and things like that. And when you want to work on it, you first have to defend that it is something that that is good for my time. When I'm putting something in it, it is really doing something. Okay, and
being selfish is very good within open source communities. Like you put in your own time and helping others, what you will get from it, right? And you can think about, oh yeah, I will contribute and get from it that I actually contributed. But if you think about it, that was maybe good until like 2018 or something. But now every developer has some GitHub profile. Most of us do something or create issues. So what's really important is that how you investing this to move your career forward. Because open source by definition has some you're solving some problems within community and users, and that's really high great cause. But overall, it's also forming and building this engineering fast-paced project that will not be possible when you have 7,000 meetings and people that need to align, right?
That is so true. Yeah. So we got kind of off topic, but a point that a student got GitHub Campus Expert email and it was disappointed. He kind of failed that GitHub Campus Expert program. So don't worry about that. Things like that happen, and when you're part of the community, like GitHub Campus Experts or any kind of community that you're part of, sometime you will get acceptance, sometime you will get rejections, but that is part of it. If somebody says that I want to be part of RedHat as a contributor, but I will only do things with them if they accept me like an employee, okay, or if they accept me some part of their direct connection, only in that case I will be part of Red Hat or JBoss products. Okay, that will be that will be a kind of a weird thing, right? So what are your points on it?
I can give you examples. So like I have been working with students for a couple of years in this Google Summer Code program, and we even have something similar for Red Hat, which is the Red Hat program for similar things. And I had some situations when you have this kind of time when you need to evaluate the student, and at some point we were just discussing, and the students actually got some problems, so we needed to fail it. And that was, I believe that was one of the toughest decisions I had in my life, because I never wanted to fail anyone. On the other hand, is that we had another person that was really doing amazing job, so it was fair to fail the other person. But what happened is that this person who was failed, and this was failed, like there was sent an email, okay, you were failed. We sent the reasons why, because like the work that was done wasn't meeting the deadlines and things like that. So what I got, like, email from this person, if you give me a chance, right, I will contact Google. I will sort it out that you will return it, right? I will work as hard as possible and meet all the deadlines. I will work harder than the other person. And we actually reverted that. We reverted that decision. And what happened is that this guy became one of the best guys I work with. And after this happened, we learned that he actually had some problems, COVID and things like that, some personal, problems. I often work with engineers, outside of my company that had some issues. Like I was renting some cash for people to buy a laptop from Nigeria because their laptop crashes, and you never, like, everything that really sets you aside, the feedback or something bad from community, please take a lesson and push hard. Never get stopped by it, but please take a lesson, because sometimes when you get the feedback, there's part that you kind of learn and accept it, and you can counterpart with. So, for example, you got the feedback, you didn't focus too much on the kind of deep technical problem, right? You can act on it and try to be more resilient in that area.
That is so true.
I love how this conversation diverges. Like I can talk about every topic you want. So
yeah, true. That is so true. And we know about your like way of communication, and that is pretty engaging as well. And the thing that you said in the previous one, like the feedback is very important, and like accepting the feedback is very important, because otherwise we fall in the trap of repeating the same mistakes. Every time a feedback comes in, we like totally disregards it, that like this is like this guy is saying something bad about me, and I'm a very awesome, very perfect person, and you cannot say anything bad about me. But later on, if we don't accept that feedback, that thing is coming back to haunt us, right? That same behavior, like if we are lacking, if we are lazy about something, second guy will tell us, you are lazy, and we cannot have you with our team. Then the third guy will say that, and if we do not remove that particular problem for our end itself, that will just keep on happening again and again and again throughout our career. So that is very important. Yes, that is so true. And this guy also said that, yes, definitely, this will not stop me, and he will try again, and that is the enthusiasm.
And always assume that always assume the positive impact. So what I have often when we're doing this community open source interactions, students and every developer, even not students, other companies, because the conversations happens on a GitHub mailing list, there's all text based, right? So sometimes someone may have a straight negative feedback or something, right? It's very clear. But there is a problem that sometimes you may read through the message and get this kind of, okay, there is very negative connotation comes from it. But in fact, is that there's not. It's just someone like having 7 meetings and like being like manager in one project, working with this and this, and just quickly replied email without, maybe not being polite. And if you assume that's always positive intent of the message, and keep in mind that, someone can work on different things and have a different context, the pool of meaning, it will be better for you, because you can think about how to resolve the issues and just basically resolve the technical problems rather than feeling bad about your skills, right?
That is so true. That is so true. Okay, so yeah, so let's have some discussion. We were discussing about open source and contribution, and a lot of side discussion that went on. So let's come back to very specific question about the Aerogear itself, right? Because a lot of people who are here are college students, and they have heard about open source. They want to do open source, but like you said, finding the good organization, and as far my knowledge of Aerogear goes, like having mentors like you and having so much great team and awesome products and awesome projects that they can start working on, and especially comparing to a lot of other Red Hat products where things can go quite messy quite easily, like Kali and these kind of projects which are quite complicated for kind of beginners perspective. I think Aerogear is one sub organization of Red Hat where things are very good for beginner friendly in some sense. Sometimes it gets quite complicated as well, but many of the projects have some beginner friendly nature. So let's have some of the names and some items, like I was taking a look at Charmel. I think Charmel was one of the project for this GSOC, right? So how exactly things about that, how exactly can students contribute in that and things?
Yeah, like I can speak about there's 4 parts of this question. So first I will start with why Aerogear is simple and why Aerogear is worth taking a look. It's I was not saying it's simple. The Aerogear started as this full stack area where we could actually take those very complex problems, let's say how to set up the authentication, right? Someone go and install Keycloak, right? It just works, right? The provision it to Kubernetes and so on, and then you're like, okay, 7 hours later, okay, what I'm doing here. So within Aerogear, we try to bridge the gap for someone who's just looking to get something quite fast, but on the other hand, he gets this enterprise-grade software, right? And that's what I was saying before, is that you have this server side and client side, and there is a huge gap that no one really cares about in the industry. Because if you think about, I'm kind of diverging from the original question, but if you think about what the industry is in 2021, is that developers are focusing on the business logic, and they using their cloud solutions a lot. So if you're like me, and I think I have more than 10 years, but 10 years ago when I was working, the thing that you could do in AWS is that just get EC2 instance, and then you were pushing their database there and having the Tomcat pushing the WAR files and things like that, right? And that's changed now. So developers focusing on building the business logic, and they will be using cloud solutions like their databases, queues, so those managed services, right? And this is what Aerogear transitions to. So initially we had okay, you can provision your Keycloak, and you can have your AMQ. But now we're saying, okay, imagine that you have some cloud solution that gives you that capability, right? Imagine you have a Keycloak or something like Auth0 solution. Now think about your business logic and how you can effectively expose it to the client side and write end-to-end client side and backend solution. And we've done that successfully for Node.js. Now we're exploring a little bit of Java and Golang as well. So there's lots of new things, lots of really great stuff coming to Aerogear. If you go into GitHub organization, you can find all sorts of projects. But reality is that we are very focused on GraphQL and very focused on those kind of bridging the gap with the managed services kind of thing. And the second part of the question was how to start with Aerogear, right? And what are the projects like Charmel and maybe Graphql and so on, right? So at this moment, we're exploring the path where we can build this GraphQL ecosystem. So what's GraphQL and why you should care? Because if we think about how to build the API right now, is that for the maybe 20 years, we are just building those RESTful HTTP APIs that are just invention of someone who works on the backend. If you were lucky enough, you could ask the backend guy to do something for you, right? And yeah, that was the story. Or for maybe I would say 2012 Open API, right? Specification. It was before it was called Swagger. That was another thing. And this entire concept of Swagger Open API, when you're starting with the conversations, starting with the Open API file, is called API first development. And the trend started maybe 4 years ago when many teams started to see, okay, how about if with the backend and the front end start talking with each other? How the work would look like if we actually start, not putting the bridge and we say, okay, here's the Word document with the API, have it. Just think about think about API design. And it doesn't imply that you basically the backend guy is still inventing the API and giving the Swagger or API definition. It's that you start in conversation. So your front-end team can start development straight away, just based on the mocks of the API that they agreed with the backend guys that fill in the gap. The challenge on that is that the RESTful API and Open APIs are out there for quite long, but their ecosystem it's still not mature. Like the Open API generator is very convoluted. Many people like coming to me and say like, it supports almost every language, but some of the like Node.js experts is still experimental there for like a couple of years. And the one thing that's really catching the attention is this new technology called GraphQL. And what GraphQL gives you you can speak about for like another 10 hours. But it changed the industry by giving front-end developers more power to build proper experiences and querying the data as they want. Before, in the middle, when GraphQL was being built, there was this concept of backend for frontends. So you were having these RESTful APIs that the backend guy give you, but now you can build another backend. But in reality, that require teams to really have someone that's being able to build that backend, and many teams will just don't have a time to and deal with some problems like authentication and so on. So what I'm really saying is that within the Aerogear, we're in this transition phase where we're seeing this huge demand for API solutions, Open API and GraphQL specifically, that will bridge the gap for the users. And number of projects that we have there, like GraphQL tools, GraphBack, and so on, tries to resolve that. We also going to create the new projects, which is something for probably topic for our next year GSOC, or if you're interested in starting something very cool, like forward-looking AI technologies, for example, within the Airgear community. And the current focus is to try to solve some specific problems within that community. GraphQL specifically, it's not mature enough. It has many different challenges that we need to deal with. And we're looking to give you this out-of-the-box experience, so you don't need to be like skilled about Kubernetes deploying stuff. You just basically use those managed services or deploying your own things and building hopefully successful APIs.
That is great. And as you said about you're planning some new projects that will be using AI and stuff, and those are targeted for the next GSOC. So to all the students out there, this is the opportunity, because if you start contributing with the Aerogear projects now, like you will have a good long enough time, a time for get interacted with the projects, get interacted with the mentors, get interacted with the whole stuff, and you will learn a lot of things, like the things that you cannot really understand when you're just running for some events like GSOC and stuff like that. And when the GSOC the time for events happen to be there, you will be more than ready for all the positions that they are opening. Yes, Vijay?
And the Aerogear, Yeah, and Aerogear, it's specifically very easy for that kind of initiative, because when you think about, like, if you want to join Kubernetes, you need to learn about Kubernetes basics. In Aerogear, we always try to decompose the problem to some small library that starts from scratch. And what it means is that you kind of get experience the best of open source. You can start building some solution on your own. You're learning a lot. You're conversing about the technology, and you don't have this legacy stuff that you need to learn to. So that's why I love to work with students, because within the 3 months, we can do something that often takes 3 years to build, and like do very cutting edge skunkworks projects that are really being used by end users. And to give you a sense, is like every student I work with ended up having their own successful startup, or they join Red Hat. So
Bam.
so
That
like,
is something.
it's either those. Like, it's sometimes they join Red Hat, because sometimes they start their own startups.
Yeah, so it is more like that. You are finally definitely going to be in the great state. So just start with it, and start spending some time to it. And we got one question from Abhishek. We can see your love for piano. So I think behind you is piano and stuff. So there's one question behind for that. So is it yours?
Yeah, like, I need to work on a better background. Sorry. Yeah, but it's like, when you think about, like, as a software engineer, it's very sometimes you need to think about out of the box, and I found that piano and just basically improvisation, it's a very good skill if you can improvise, right, within the frames of what's the current scale or things like that. So if you like music and you're doing software development, I think the music and software development have a lot of commonalities with improvisation skills.
Awesome. I last year, before Corona started, I bought one kind of this keyboard, and I thought that I will try with it, but I was so bad with it. I just tried for a month, and then I was like, just I kept it in the shelf. I don't want to see it anymore. I just tried, but I couldn't do it. It is kind of not my cup of tea, I will say.
All my gear is also dusting all the time, so they're just like background. So they're not being used at all. So thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, cool. So and one very, very important thing, when we were discussing about Aerogear, I just happened to see the comment, and I got distracted. But the very point, when we were discussing about Aerogear, so the kind of problem Aerogear solves, that is pretty awesome. And guys, even it is not just about contributing in Aerogear. If you start using Aerogear, it is going to solve a lot of problems for you. Doesn't matter, you are creating web applications, you are creating mobile applications, just go take a look. As even our type API sir said, it is very awesome about the things that it provides. Okay, and the first thing that you have to do is to become the user. So what you have to start with is just become the user of Aerogear item, the things that Aerogear provides, and you will totally fall in love with it.
I will kind of bump it up, because Aerogear is set of the libraries, so you will typically explore them if you have a problem number X. For example, you want to build Graphql APIs, and now you want to generate the client-side queries. And if you Google it, bam, the Aerogear, it's a #1 solution in Google. If you want to work offline, you just Google it. Yeah, first solution, and there's a blog post. If you have a problem with performance with GraphQL, first. So you not typically go to Aerogear with, okay, I want to try Aerogear as a cool thing. You just find in it because it's like #1 thing for some specific problem. But if we ramp it up to entire JBoss, just to give you this kind of, JBoss is a big bubble that includes Aerogear and folks like me, but also includes any other even more awesome projects. So if you have heard about Knative, or if you care about Apache Kafka or things like that, like we try to be like building around this Kubernetes ecosystem. And there are a number of projects that we'll explore with Aerogear, let's say, just to improve the experience with Knative, or for example, how to work with Debezium. We have done a lot of Debezium is a project. Sorry, I should probably introduce that. So Debezium is a project that provides you change data capture. So wherever something changes in the database, you can get events from a Kafka, which just happened to be a very great way to serve some straightaway data to the user through GraphQL. So we have been using Debezium and promoting with the GraphQL community, and many developers use that currently in production. So what I feel is that you will not typically go in Aerogear and just look on the projects. You will think about, okay, I really want to start GSOC, and what Aerogear folks, those crazy guys, are looking for right now. And what I think we're doing is that every time we have this very formalized plan, we just put this in front of the people. So we pointed as, okay, this is a plan for this year. This is what we're doing. And those are not keep in mind that the things that we're putting, they're just skunkworks ideas that help solving the problem that's out there. It's not a problem for Red Hat. We're not just getting you to work for us for free just to do something. We looking to solve the real problems that are current community. And in most of the cases, we're solving the problems that developers will be hitting even further, like 2025 or something. The software development, it's just rapidly evolving. And what we see is that developers are being more impatient. What I see by that is that if you go on a project in 2018 and you look for some feature, and you will probably spend 2 hours with it to try it out. Now, if developers goes on the GitHub, right, he sees something interesting, he needs to be able to try it out with 5 minutes. If he's not going to get it running with 5 minutes, you can forget about it being used. So even less, like some people will say, like, if you don't have a GIF visualizing what this project is going to do, like 30 seconds, that's how much you can, gain someone's interest. Once that's there, like, someone would maybe invest more time, because there's so many different technologies, so many libraries, people claim, oh yeah, my thing is the best. That's also the pitfall of the technology, right? We can have another session on that, right?
Yeah, that is right. And we will be having, as audience is very excited to have you, and definitely will be asking you for a lot of more sessions to discussing, because we touched a lot of topics on very from quite far away. So but we will be requesting you for a lot of sessions, specifically detailing about few things, specific projects and specific ideas. So I'm hoping that you will be available to us for some more sessions.
I'm hoping I didn't derail this one. I have a tendency to work on site, talk about site topics. So
no. I'm just saying that we are expecting you to be available for more
Perfect.
sessions.
Yeah. Like I'm happy to be regular guest.
Yes,
it's
yes.
It's very nice interview, by the way. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. So this is not the end of the session. I was just saying, we will be having more sessions. This is not yet the end. We have some points that was coming up, and one of that was, I'm not sure, because there is a gap of the country. Because of that, I think this question might be a bit irrelevant for you, but still, I'm just throwing it out. How can we get internships for internship opportunities at Red Hat?
I'm a community guy, so but yeah, there are many. So I'm just working with the many developers that are working already in the industry or looking to get into Red Hat. So what's the best way to get into Red Hat is to literally start contributing, but start contributing meaningful changes. Another thing is just to being able to talk about some technologies that are being used by Red Hat. And I don't mean here Red Hat products. Don't think about like any other company. Think about open source solution like Kafka. Like if you understand how Kafka works and have a tough, have experience with it and play with it, right? The challenge you have is that to really understand about Kafka, you need to be hired by some company, right? And then you do tough projects. And that's why circling back why Airgear is awesome is that you can actually get experience of doing something that, solving even harder problem that you will deal at work. And at work, you will never have the time to resolve it properly. You will never have a mentor that spends with you so much time helping you to do it. And the way you kind of resolving the problem at work, you have 70% time to write the business logic, 30% is maybe the platform and things like that. Imagine that you can have 100% time on the platform and think about how to do technology efficiently, and you don't care about business logic at all. So by business logic, I mean, like, if you build another Uber, you think about how those cars are moving or things like that. We don't care. We're just building something for a wider group of people, solving some real challenges.
That is great, because as you said, you don't have to worry about a lot of business logic. It is more about like total JBosses. It is more about middleware. So it is totally about business, in between layer of what you were actually doing and what the business logic is. We just want to simplify things for you. That is all.
Yeah, and simplification is one of the main things, because there are many different options out there. And sometimes using them together doesn't really work. So you can go, okay, you can have this and this, like you can have a Lego and another puzzle, right? But then try to match them, they not really fit together. So if someone really tries to fit those things together and make them work and show you patterns for doing so, it will save you a tons of time. It's just bringing you to the point where you can just use those things with your business logic rather than thinking about those infrastructure.
That is right. And because Aerogear provide a lot of solutions, so you just can have different types different items combined for creating the whole application. As you said, if you just go for different items for different solutions, they just don't fix together. But these items fix together. That is very, very important. Okay, so I suppose we covered all the questions for today, and so we got one roadmap request for I think, I'm not sure which exactly roadmap that this guy is asking. Probably he's asking about open source roadmap. So can Keshav, can you please elaborate which specific roadmap you're talking about, so that we can have much better response for that?
With the roadmap, we typically think about single project, right? So like if we say like Apache HTTP, so that's the roadmap. Within Aerogear, we're actively investing in a number of projects, and the roadmap at the moment involves transforming those. So I think that's the hardest part, right? If you think about the open source community, you will go to single repo and look for issues. At the moment within RedHat, we're transforming the way we work, and we're going to clean things up. So what I promise that maybe for the next time, I can bring some ideas or repositories. We have mentioned Charmill. That's a little bit of the side project right now, but it's becoming one of the most important things that we're doing. I could speak about Charmill for our entire session, so let's maybe not. If you want a short summary, I can give you that. But Quarkus.
So this guy said Quarkus, open source roadmap and Quarkus. So so would you like to elaborate something on Quarkus, or it is?
Quarkus is one of the greatest projects that we currently have, and it's basically fixing the main challenges with Java ecosystem and Kubernetes. And roadmap there, you need to kind of join the community list, and there's many different topics that are being discussed there, and the roadmap is fluent. So if we have a Quarkus representative, they have their own like Quarkus live sessions. I think I can send you the links to that. So they discuss some topics, and you can even bring your own for discussion. But Quarkus is quite huge, involves so many different projects. A little bit like Aerogear, but Aerogear is mostly Node.js. The Quarkus is Java, and within the Quarkus ecosystem, you need to basically look on GitHub issues, but also there are mentorship programs out there. You can reach out to me, and I can find you the person to talk with.
Cool. And in the description, you have like Twitter link of Wojciech, our Type API. You can find him on Twitter with that same user Type API, and with the help of that, Wojciech, I have added this Twitter on the description itself of this video. Okay, so they can reach there, and let me just add this here as well. Oh, sorry, I pasted different link. Let me just copy this one in the comment. Okay. And do you have your Twitter DM open?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's actually my main way to communicate with community. We also, like, if you have any like mentorship or private questions, I will always reply. And we also have a Aerogear Discord chat. Yeah, Discord chat. But you can follow me on Twitter, and if you have any questions. In case of how you want to contribute to Quarkus, I would say start with good first issues, and then think about what kind of component and plugin you're interested in. Because reality is that Quarkus is so huge, has so many different connectors and plugins. Yeah, you can learn and build some sample apps on top of it. And keep in mind that the projects at Quarkus, sometimes you don't need to contribute back to the repo. You can create your own repo and create, let's say, awesome Quarkus getting started application that does something very complex. Or if you're passionate about like rockets, you can just build the rockets API using Quarkus and things like that. Like contributing there are many different ways to do so. And if you're learning, if you're getting extra benefit, I feel that sometimes the dropping things to the main repo, the working with the core contributors, may be a waste of time rather than yourself like building something very complex using Quarkus and get hired, by a company that using it, right? So eventually think about what you want to learn and what's your target.
Awesome. And I suppose from the discussion today, we can feel that like Charmel will be our next session, right? So discussing about
we can talk about Charmel. Yeah.
Cool. That will be great. So students, the next session we will arrange with the type API will be the Charmel, and I will provide some information and some basic ideas that you can take around and look around few days before, so that when type API discuss about the Charmel project, you can have some better idea and how exactly you can start contributing to it. So I suppose that is all for today, and we thank a lot to type API for joining for this session, and like enlightening all the students and giving a lot of awesome inside information, telling us about the career at Red Hat and the great things that we can do with open source and specifically with Aerogear projects. So that is it for today, and thank you, type API.
Thank you so much, guys. See ya. Bye.
Bye.